Hey everyone. So I know it's been a long time since I've been on online. I actually have probably not been on for about a month. A lot of things have actually been happening, so I've been very busy and just haven't gotten around to making this a priority. So now I'm gotta get caught up because I want to share with you all the things that I've been experiencing over the last month and so forth. Since the last video that I did, I wanted to kind of catch up on all this work that I was gonna be missing on because I was gonna take a trip to Santa Fe for a week. So I jam packed my schedule and I had clients every single day. So I was having anywhere from 8 to 10 clients a day. And I did it like back to back to back and every single day leading up to the trip to Santa Fe. And I was exhausted. I was so tired and just I felt like my brain was gonna blow up. And so then we went on vacation, and I stopped doing all readings at that point because whenever I'm on vacation, I don't work at all. So I turned off like some of the features on my website for e-readings, and I didn't do any readings at all whatsoever. And my assistant, she handled all of the texts and emails and calls and whatnot that I received. I didn't work for the week we were in Santa Fe, and it was a great trip. I enjoyed myself. Probably going to move there one day. I'm pretty sure because we love Santa Fe so much. We'll be going back there in about 3 months. We usually take 2 trips to Santa Fe, so that was great. So Santa Fe was fun. And then when we got back from Santa Fe, I actually had a unfortunate set of circumstances that happened in our family. So I have an uncle who lives in San Antonio, and he's been a very important figure in my life, even though he and I have not really had a close relationship, and he's not been a, an active participant in my life. The few times that I've ever encountered him, he's meant a lot to me. He's taught me a great deal about life and family and worth and value and so forth. He had been sick for some time, and I really wanted to go and visit him before he passed away. I wanted to go and see him or visit him, but his daughter had kind of gone in there and taken over his entire life, and she was keeping everybody else at distance. And the reason why is because he's been very successful in his life, so he's got a lot of money and a lot of to his estate. And I think she wanted to help get everything and didn't want anyone to challenge or to threaten that. So she's been keeping everybody else at a distance. And what happened was she would tell everybody in the family, she's like, hey, just so you guys know, Theo's dying, he's passing, he's getting sick, he's dying, but don't come and see him, don't come and visit him. So that was kind of the situation we were faced with. And we weren't going to go and trespass because the last thing we want to do is go and try to see our uncle only to be, just only to be having to deal with law enforcement officials coming asking, what are you doing trespassing on this property? Because she's that crazy. So, we felt kind of bad. My sister and I felt bad because I wanted to just thank him for everything that he did for us in our lives. My sister wanted to tell him thank you for helping her through school because when we were younger, he always told us, if you guys want to go to college, you let me know, I will pay for your college. And he was just that kind of guy, very, very awesome person, and just the best uncle, the best uncle. So everything was a Saturday night, I believe. It was a Friday night, Saturday morning. So I had a dream, and in the dream, I was teaching a class here in my homework it's just where I teach my classes, my mediumship class. So I was teaching a mediumship class, and I was in the middle of the dream, I told everyone in the class, hey, we got to go to San Antonio. We have to go see my uncle. So we're not going to do the class here. We're going to go to San Antonio and do it there. So I took everyone with me. We went to San Antonio, and it was a small class in the dream. And so all of my students, they went all over the place because once we got there was a huge party going on. It was a huge celebration, and he was throwing a huge party. And my uncle was known for huge parties, and that's what he did. He would throw these massive parties. I remember one time he threw a rodeo-themed party, and his entire driveway, he had them, he ordered rolls of hay, and they brought in hay and brought horses, and it was just ridiculous. But it was a Western-themed party. So, so in the dream, we went to his home, and which was interesting because it wasn't his home in the dream. In the dream, his home was very white and huge and beautiful. It reminds me of those very simple contemporary museums where everything's white and you just have art on the walls. And so in the dream, everything was very pristine, clean, and white and huge, and it was a beautiful house. but it wasn't his house, the house that he had here in the living world. Um, and we had known that he was passing. We knew that he was getting older and that he was starting to lean towards the passing away. We'd already known that for about a month, so we didn't really know when he was exactly going to pass. We just knew he was going to pass at some point. So in the dream, we went to the house, and I was there with my class, and I saw my uncle there, and I was like, oh my gosh, and I went up to him and I said, Theo, thank you so much for everything that you've done for me. You've been so inspirational to me, and you taught me so much, and I love you so much, and thank you for everything you've done for myself and for the family. And then at some point, my sister came into the dream, and she saw my uncle, and she went up to my uncle, and she was hugging him and telling him thank you for everything he did for her with school and so forth. And that was pretty much the dream. And then I woke up. So that morning, I texted my sister, and I said, hey, I had a dream about Theo. I think he might be passing away. And she was like, oh, okay. And I still saved the dream. I still saved it and I Facebooked it because it was an interesting dream about him. And this was, even before I knew he had passed away. And that was in the morning. I texted her and sent her, the dream and what happened. And she said, what do you think that means? I'm like, I think he's going to pass away soon. I think this was his goodbye party because it felt like a goodbye party. And then, of course, we went ahead and later in the evening, that same day, we found out that he had actually passed away that morning. So I really believe that I had a chance to see him in spirit form and that I was just visiting with him energetically and I was thanking him. So I feel like I got the chance to say goodbye and I got the chance to, to thank him for everything, which I'm going to see him again. And once it's my time to go. And it's not like I couldn't get a hold of him if I didn't try, but with it's my own family, what I can do for others is very different because I don't know them. So there's a lot of validation there that they can go off of. When it's myself and it's my own family, it doesn't feel the same way. Even though I know that I can connect with them and I know that I can, hear spirit, when it's my own family, it just feels differently. And it isn't the same as being in human form where you can go out and have a cup of coffee with somebody. So it's just, it is a saying of goodbye. It's saying goodbye to them, and it's for a period of time. So yeah, I feel like I got a chance to say goodbye to my uncle. Was very happy that he's okay and that he's doing well, and that he's with all of his brothers and sisters, or my grandfather, who is his brother. So I'm that was an interesting experience. And then after we got back, I actually went on a mini trip. Went out to this place up in like maybe an hour north of San Antonio. So I drove out there and I spent about 2 days out there, and we went hiking, which was fun, and then I went kayaking. Dislocated my shoulder, but it popped back in, but it was totally worth it because it was a lot of fun. So anyways, that was fun. And then when I got back from that trip, I just hit like an emotional and an energetic low. And for a few days, I could not figure out what was going on because I just was having trouble waking up in the morning. I couldn't wake up. And then when I did wake up, it took me like a long time to get my mind active and ready for my sessions. And it's as if I was waking up and I do my sessions and then I go right back to bed. And I felt this way for several days. I mean, I think it was almost a week where I felt this way, where I did not have any energy for anything, which is why I didn't do a video, because I had been wanting. I initially did another video right after my uncle passed and had talked about that circumstance or the situation. But the audio was totally screwed up, so I didn't want to post it. But I just felt so energetically low that I could not do anything. So I felt depressed, which is weird because I'm not a depressed type. If I ever feel a little down, I may feel down for a day or two, and then I would get back to normal. But this was almost like a week where I felt exhausted. I felt mentally drained. I felt like I didn't care about anything. I felt just sad. I felt angry. I actually got so mad one day that I threw a little USB drive, and I'm not an aggressive person, so for me to throw a USB drive, I was like, okay, what's wrong with him? So it was weird. For almost a week I was out of it, and I couldn't figure it out. And usually whenever I feel this way, and I know that there's, I could talk about different things in my life that I wasn't happy about, but not one thing really felt strong enough to claim that energy for a whole week. It was as if it really wasn't anything wrong in my life that was so bad for me to feel that way for a week. So I just felt so down and low. And I knew after feeling that way for several days, I just knew that this was not my energy. And then, we have all this stuff that's been going on. We did have the Orlando issues going on, and we've got this whole presidential drama happening, and then so and then we've got another shooting with the police officers in Dallas. So there's just all this energy that's going on right now, and so everybody is expressing and sharing all of their energy, and they're putting it out into the world. And I think us sensitives, because I'm not the only, come to find out I'm not the only person that's felt this way. During that period, I have a friend who also was going through the same process, and then his friend, who's also sensitive, was also going through the same process. So we've been just so low on energy and feeling like just like a loss of hope and sadness and anger and so forth. And it was so weird because it was overwhelming. And anything that I was trying to do to raise my vibrational state, to raise my state of being, wasn't working. So I just had to kind of sit with it and just let it be what it was, and just to make the best of it until it kind of went away. So after about a week, like I woke up one morning, I was back to normal, back to my normal self, and it was gone. So it was weird because it was so heavy, and it was just I really believe it was an immense amount of heavy energy that was coming from society, from our culture, from our little corner of the world. There's just so much going on, and the energy is being expressed in mass, and it's just too much. I even spent a few days off of Facebook because I just couldn't cope with everything that was being shared and expressed on Facebook. And I was just like, I'm going into self-destruct mode. So that was interesting. And then something else that happened after that. Oh, well, I want to tell you about one of my clients. So I had a client come in a few days ago. And I do readings, and I do psychic readings, and I do mediumship sessions as well. And whenever I do a mediumship session, I always tell people, come open and be ready, because I am going to share a lot of information. Hopefully you'll be able to validate it in the moment, but most of the time people cannot validate the information until after they've left, they've listened to the recording, and they've kind of gone over the stuff that I've shared, and then they check with family members because they don't know everything that's gone on in the spirit's life, and sometimes they need to check on things. But I had a client come in, and the first time he came in during my energy low week, and I tried to connect him with his brother, and I was able to establish a connection, and I was able to give information about his brother, how he passed and whatnot, but I was struggling to maintain the energy, plus I was struggling to give him like very specific validation. Actually, I feel I gave him enough information, but he was waiting to hear very specific bits of information. And so I got so low in the energy that, we went through the time that we had, and he still wanted more. And I feel like, even though I felt it was a decent reading, but I feel that there is more that I could have done. So I decided that I was just going to do a refund, because my thing is, if I cannot connect with spirit for you, you're just not going to get charged for it. And so I was going to process a refund, but he was just so desperate to hear from his brother that he wanted to try again. And so it's not something I normally do, but I was willing to give it another shot. So we scheduled him for another appointment on a few days later. He came in, and again, I was able to connect with his brother. And this time I did get more information, and I gave him a lot of information. And we actually went over the time that we had allotted. And he really was like very stuck on hearing very specific bits of information from his brother. And unfortunately, as much as I would love to just verbatim repeat everything that a spirit would like to communicate across, it doesn't work that way. If it doesn't exist in my brain, or if it's not easily accessible in my mind, it's probably not going to be the first thing that they bring to mind or they show up. Like, for example, if he wanted to hear about his brother's. He wanted to hear about his brother's, his brother's name. Like, there's a specific name change or something like that. And he was waiting to hear me say that. Which was interesting, because I did say, I feel like there's a continuation to the name. And he said, no, my brother's not, he wasn't named after anyone. I'm like, well, that's weird, because I feel there's a continuation with the name, and I feel like that double the name. And he said, no, he wasn't named after anyone. But then as we went through the session, come to find out that his brother, their stepfather, the man that their mother married, he also had the same name as his brother. One had the middle name the same, the other one had the first name, and they were the same. And so he used to call his brother Junior, even though his brother was not a junior. And so there was the continuation of the name. So there were little things like that that he wasn't catching because he was so focused on hearing specific bits of information that he was not able to be open and receptive to all the other stuff that I was trying to tell him that validated that this was in fact his brother. And I think at the very end, I was so persistent, and I even had to say, look, guy, you are very, very closed off to a lot of the information I'm sharing with you. And I know that you want to hear specific bits of information from your brother, but you are not opening up to the other information. And there are other spirits here who are trying to be validated. So I need you to open up and really be open and perceptive and just kind of go along with me on this journey, because I'm trying to help you understand some things, and if I can validate somebody else's presence without a doubt, then that should be helpful in helping to validate your brother's information as well, because even though you don't hear the specific bit you want to know about, the other information from the other spirits that is absolutely without a shadow of a doubt validation can help you to feel like this was in fact he being there. And I totally get where he was coming from, but he was so specific on what he wanted to hear. And I just could not give him that. And so, for him, it may have been as if the whole session was not valid because he did not hear, Pocahontas spots. Like, if you want to hear about Pocahontas spots and you don't hear the word Pocahontas spots, it's not something that's validated for you. I get that, but that's it. Like I said, information comes through, and sometimes you're not going to get exactly what you want to hear. The spirit's going to do their very best to share information, and I'm going to do my very best to understand what they're trying to say, because they're not just flat out saying it. I have to play this whole charades game with them to figure out what they're talking about, and then I'm going to try to pass it along as best as I can. So I felt after the second session, I felt like I definitely connected with his loved ones, and I gave him a lot of information. And it is recorded, so you can go over and analyze and really look and see. But sometimes people really want to hear specific things, and unless they hear that one thing, they blow off the rest of the reading, and there are a lot of messages of healing there. So that's something that I run into from time to time. It's not often, but every now and then I run into someone who's very closed off to the messages, and they just want to hear something specific. And that really is sad, because you can't. Something that I learned a long time ago is I always thought that when I was a medium or when I would read, that I would hear things in a very specific way, and it never worked out that way. I would always have to be open and receptive, and messages came through in the way they were going to come through, and I had to accept that. So that was an interesting experience, and that's something that I've run into just a few times. It's not very often, but that is something important for people who are learning. If you're learning how to be a medium, or you're developing your own skills, or if you're going to a medium for messages, you want to be open and receptive, because sometimes, I will say this, about half of the information you hear in a session is not going to be validated in the moment. You're going to have to do your homework after the fact, and then it's even more impressive when that happens, because if I couldn't tell in the moment that this was with you, and then you leave and you validate this because you didn't even know this, then that definitely helps to validate that the experience was real and that we did connect with the spirit. So, but yeah, it was an interesting experience and so forth. So, but I just wanted to share with you my experiences over the last few weeks. I'm still here, I'm still around. I'm actually going to be working on my next video. I think it's going to be about developing mediumship and how you can improve your ability to communicate with spirits and hear spirits, because it's going to be based off of the 10 tips on how to increase your psychic potential. And so this one's going to be more about 10 tips on how to increase your spirit communication ability. So I hope that you'll stay tuned for that, and I hope I haven't lost you guys. Thank you so much for bearing with me and for seeing me go Mia for a few weeks. Then I will see you in the next video. Okay, bye.